Hello and welcome in new episode of Go Global Eastern Europe podcast. Today is special day because it's few podcast episodes, but first time I have guests in person in this wonderful space of co-working, of PPNT in Gdynia. So we meet here with Marcin. Marcin is expert of SEO, of hacking Google, or maybe of doing this white hat.
Wouldn't use that word, but that's okay.
Okay. And his niche is SaaS companies, so it's great of positioning himself. And he has some special insights that could be super valuable for us as service providers, of course, and especially for product owners, especially if we are from Eastern Europe, but Marcin has clients worldwide. So welcome again.
Thank you.
And
Thank
if
you.
you can introduce yourself in your words, what
Yeah.
should we know about you
Of course.
to learn better and to trust more your knowledge?
Yeah, of course. Everybody should introduce themselves at the beginning, so let's do that. So hi. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me, first of all, and then a quick intro about myself. So I've been doing SEO for like forever. Since like 2006. So I know a thing or two about it. Started in actually my SEO sort of journey started back in London when I moved there, and then quickly grow the corporate ladder to different positions, and then my last gig was as head of SEO at EF Education First, and that's where I sort of like finished my corporate career and started consulting. 2017, that's where I started. Went on to freelance consulting, and then started my own sort of like small agency. At this very moment, we've got like it's 4 of us actually. And then we help clients with SEO, specifically with SaaS SEO. So we've got clients, a range of clients, but from different countries, but mostly that's US, UK, Spain, and Germany. So quite range, but like focusing on SaaS and then English-speaking markets.
Okay.
So that's a quick intro.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting situation for us because we're recording for the second time because we had some technical issues and we couldn't use the first recording. So for me, I sometimes I repeat jokes. What is strange? So Marcin, it's possible to hear that you spent so much time in UK. But I use this joke second time, so not so funny. So let's go through the topic.
Come on, people don't know that.
But it's from the natural flow, and it's maybe I shouldn't explain this. Okay, so that question that I asked in the previous recording, I will maybe start with this one because we should to this common objection that. And this time it's so many, updates, pandas, penguins, and things like this. I heard somewhere that many people, it's not worth anymore to do any SEO because you should just provide good quality content. And is it true or not? What is possible now and how much effort we should put in this?
Yeah. I mean, definitely SEO is becoming harder and harder. It's not that, of course, like a lot of people say like, oh, SEO is that, don't do it anymore. And it's just one of the channels, so you need to crack it. You need to know how to do it. It's becoming more and more difficult. Yes. Is it possible to achieve success with SEO? Of course. It just requires more time, skill, and effort, and then money as well. Everybody's investing in it. There's like 70 to 80% of traffic to global, recognized sites, and then also smaller ones are actually coming from SEO. So it's 100% worth it. It just requires more effort and dedication, and then time, because everything is more complex. The whole marketing, digital is much more complex as you think about it, because everything became more competitive. There's always new players coming in. And there's all sorts of updates, happening as well. So I think the fundamentals are still the same. you know, because it's all about like authority,
Mm-hmm.
and then how relevant you are, how in terms of like the keywords that you're trying to target, and that's become more and more important these days, you know.
Okay.
So yeah.
So when is this time when it's worth to do this? Because it's not quick win strategy.
No.
So sometimes to focus at the beginning, I think it could be disaster, because if we need money to survive next month, SEO could be not the best road. So how can you spot this, that the right time to start investing in SEO?
Yeah. So the right time, I think that's when you've got traction. I mean, you should be doing this since the beginning, since day one, but maybe in like a planning stage, you know, just picking the right domain, or like just strategically like thinking about it, like what sort of what's your target audience, like what sort of content we should be creating, and doing like this step by steps, and also building authority over time. This is kind of like a baby steps. All the technical aspects, of course, like most of the people who will be listening to this will probably have technical skills or know somebody who have technical skills. So the technical aspects will be sorted. But then once you have that, this is kind of like the base. You could do most of it yourself. But then when it's a good time to invest in it, and that's like different question, like, or go serious about it, is when you need traction, you know, when you need to scale up, you know, when you actually have some early success, you know, or have a product that you want to like scale, or you have the funding. Of course, there's in loads of cases or that's also an entry point where you have funding, or you know, bootstrap to the level that you're comfortable enough with spending money on marketing, and that's where you know, have a marketing person typically. So you want to figure out, okay, what this marketing person should be doing, and then that's when the SEO comes in. You know, you've got that first marketing person. Okay, let's do something serious, which will actually help us grow. You know, so that's probably the good starting point. You know.
Do you have any metric how many searches should be for the keyword to consider this? For example, 50 searches, 100, or maybe 2000? Because I remember I played like many years ago with niche sites, and there was recommendation 2000 searches for the niche site with Google AdSense and things like this. So it was like old school. I have even website rolleduncle.org, but I forget about this. But I positioned this, and I was surprised in analytics what happened, why I have so many searches, and they found that I had this website, but I forget to renew the domain. So this was one of my quick stories with SEO.
So I wouldn't be obsessed too much about it, actually, to be honest. It really depends, like, what are your key target keywords that you want to go after, and then how much they worth to you. I mean, some keywords could be like small in terms of, you know, the number of volume of people searching for it, but for you is actually, they are super important. So you just go after them. And then just going after like big keywords is not often good idea at the starting point, because everybody else knows those keywords. There are tools available. Everybody knows those keywords as well from those tools. So you just go after something that's more niche when you're starting, and then of course as you grow, try to target higher and higher volume keywords, which will bring you more traffic. You know, so that's, I think, is the scaling point. But ultimately, those keywords need to, you know, bring people back to your site and then convert. So there's all sorts of way of looking at keywords. There's tools for it. Ahrefs, you know, SEMrush. These are the best ones these days. And then judge the keywords not necessarily based on the volume. You know, there are different metrics like, you know, cost per click. You know, how much people are spending on it. You know, which will give you the intent. You know, some keywords are like crazy expensive, like 100 plus per click. You know, so they're much more worth to people essentially. And there's all sorts of metrics that Google will also introduce that, you know, that you can look into, like how many people actually click on those keywords. There's gonna be loads of keywords which are high volume, but then because of the feature snippet, like 50% of the clicks goes to the feature snippet. So even there is a high volume, everybody goes and click, or actually there's not even a click. They read what they want to read, and that's it. They search for something else.
True.
So they get the information. A lot of people might be searching for like the generic terms. So high volume, but nobody's clicking on them.
True.
It's,
I found it many times. Like you're searching about opening hours in some museum or something.
Yeah,
I don't have goal, to go anywhere. I just see this directly in the Google, or maybe I'm checking results of the games now.
Ultimately, that's the Google's idea, to get as much as relevant answers straight away. They don't want you to click.
Yeah, and they don't want that I will go away from the Google.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Facebook, everyone want to hold us in their ecosystem. And
so
it's
check,
interesting.
So when you look at the keywords, definitely check like how many people are actually clicking on them. There is in Ahrefs there is this metrics available, so you can see. Yeah.
Okay, so not only searches but only how many clicks.
How many clicks, and then also lots of others. This keyword difficulty, like what it takes to actually rank for it. There's loads of metrics associated with keywords. There's also like there's another metric with like how many people actually search the second time. So essentially, like they search for something and then they bounce to search for something else. So that's loads.
Interesting. Interesting. So that will show that this keyword don't have like relevant results. Okay. So as we talk that it's not from the beginning, and you mentioned that we could do something from the beginning. So what do you advise to create like good ground for the future cooperation with consultants, agencies to go hard for SEO? But on this point, when we are just creating like landing page, we are sending cold emails and looking for product market fit. So what do you recommend to do to not make some critical mistakes that will be too late to recover? Maybe that will cost a lot of money to change domain because it was spammed or something. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. I see this all the time. People make mistakes. I mean, it's reversible. So it's fine. When you want to change domain, it's fine. You could do the domain migrations, all sorts of migrations. We help a lot of clients with that actually. But then at the beginning, if you think about the authority of the site, you want to put everything, ideally it should be contained under one place. If you think about like, going global, as this podcast is, you want to have your languages folder, for example, inside folders, not somewhere else, not subdomains, not in different places. If you want to target English speaking countries, go with domain that is actually going to be recognized there, so you don't have to change from local domain into the global one. So that's first, and in terms of fundamentals, which will be quite a big mistake if you make. I had recently the client who had the Polish domain, and they now want to go global, so they switched from Polish to the English one. And then now facing a few consequences after that. So going global since the beginning makes sense, and then translating into local languages. If you're going to go after Germany, just translate the German and then have the German version there.
Yeah, but everything under the global domain.
Everything on the global domain, and that's kind of like the setup I've seen the most sort of successful actually.
It is worth to buy all the domain. And second question, is it possible to check if there's not some problems with this, like on aftermarket or something like this?
Yeah, I mean, so you can check the history of the domain. Of course, there are tools available for that. But then your first question is going after multiple domains. Yes, if you like big corporation, you want to cover, like Amazon. They have probably all the domains.
True.
Like Google as well. But then if you like small company, what's the point? True. Yes, you might want to like cover your brand, but then you have like almost like a graveyard of unused domains. I've got my own graveyard with unused domains,
course.
and basically every digital entrepreneur had probably have his own graveyard.
True.
Like, oh, I've purchased a domain. What's this worth? So yeah, just go after one, because it's also easier to build authority under one domain. The local domains often will be working better in the local markets, but then you need to build the authority of this local domain. So it doesn't necessarily make sense if you're starting, and then if you're smaller.
Okay, it is a big difference if we buy com, net, or biz or org domain. It's com the super number one, and the rest it's hard, because so many startups use IO, for example, domain. I'll also decide to buy CO from Content Way.
Colombian.
Maybe. yeah, true.
It's a Colombian domain.
Yeah, but it's selling as global.
Yes.
Okay, I haven't thought about this that way, but I like Colombia, so I lived in Medellin for a few weeks, so...
I mean, .com is hard to get, of course. It's probably the most used. If you can, you're great. If you cannot, it's fine. It's absolutely. I've got one client in Barcelona who's using .io, and it's perfectly fine to rank in English-speaking markets, as well as Spanish and Brazil with .io, for example. And it's not the top-level domain, so it's fine. And then you can do. Still, you could break into languages. You can use href, lang sort of tags to make sure that they split into different countries, and then it's fine. It's fine. You don't need to be obsessed, unless you want to go with like conquer, US with Russian domain. I wouldn't recommend that. Or like Chinese. If you want to go after Baidu, and definitely go CN. And then other than that, I will out of the most like interesting one recently introduced was like EU. I mean, but doesn't seem like a lot of people are using it.
It's something that people don't feel this so much, that either global or local, it's it's not so often.
It's not so much used, which is so people not get used to it. Like for example .io or .me are quite often used, so there's this like, I don't know, book me, and then it sounds nice.
True.
Because then you can make it the play the words, so that could be a nice trick. And then other than that, there's no constraints. It's all about like the number of authority you concentrate in a given domain, and then backlinks mainly.
Okay. So, we have this, that it's for us, that any other mistakes that you want to mention, that for example something with like text tag, that don't use WordPress or landing gear, or it's landing pages, it's harder to rank, but it is like some critical mistakes that we shouldn't have on domain or something like this.
Any critical mistakes to avoid? Well, make your site lean and then fast. So don't overgrow your structure. It's easy to have few pages, and then you start to grow and grow because you build up, and then all of a sudden you find yourself like, I've got hundreds of pages. I don't know, it's like categories, tags, and all sorts of junk that WordPress typically generates. Then you find yourself that your authority of the domain is diluted over these pages, and then that's kind of one of the mistakes from like structure point of view. But then like from the tech stack, I mean, people started. I've seen more and more people using Webflow as a sort of like a platform. So a lot of people started to move from WordPress to Webflow. Because it's fast, it's quick, but it's got limitations.
I like design.
And it's nice, design wise, but it's got its own limitations. So every platform has, pros and cons.
You don't have so many plugins or extensions like in WordPress. You have everything there.
You're also limited. You're also limited to the platform itself. You can only do whatever the platform gives you. There is some custom coding, but not much. So it's limited. It's limited actually. And then the speed. So first of all, lean. just like just make it, as fewer possible pages as possible. And then the speed is, Google is obsessed. They're literally obsessed with speed, and now they're gonna have the Core Web Vitals update coming, postponed to happen in August, which will be all about the speed. It's one of the ranking factors, not just the one.
Okay.
But for them, they want to have fast experience when people browse, and when people find that top sites, they want them to experience like fast sites. You wouldn't load if you Google, you wouldn't load the slowest website at the top, because everybody who searched there like find the site like, what is this?
Yeah. Why they have so rank?
Yeah.
I don't believe in Google. I go to the Bing. No, they want to provide us the best possible experience. Of
and
course.
then as users, we have the same. I mean, we don't have. Oh, I wish this website was slower.
No,
you don't say that.
Of course,
you just always kind of like the speed is the nature. It's like it's the new feature that everybody wants. Because it's the communication that we foster in all the messaging. We our lives are just faster. And then we also expect the technology to go, to be faster as well. So that's sort of user expectations the same way. So Google is, going ahead the user expectations. Yeah.
Great. And another question I have now, and it's born like a few seconds ago. Where is better to post article? On my blog, on LinkedIn, Medium, on some established domains, which is not mine. But I have this opportunity that, faster, and maybe to put backlink in this article to my blog. What do you think?
Okay. So it's kind of like a trade-off, so you should be, you should try to be in different places, of course. You don't want to just be on your own site, because you're not going to get much backlinks if you're just on your own site and you don't go out. It's like sitting in a house and never going out.
True.
When you just
it's
try.
Safe, but boring.
It's safe but boring. The COVID lockdown is kind of like the everybody's sitting in the house, and then so when you publish content somewhere else, it gives you authority, by the source, so LinkedIn, I think, allows you to put the backlink, to your site. The Medium does that as well. Of course, most of these are, no follow, and then things like that. But then these are signals that Google is using to accredit the authority towards your site. So more sites that you have linking to you, of course, your own authority will go up.
Even no follow links, it's
even no follow, they say recently, it still counts as a signal.
Yeah, because to explain that we have links that have this, I don't know how to say this, that feature that is follow or no follow, and follow we have the bigger power for our domain, and no follow it should be nothing, or should be something, as Marcin said, that it's better than nothing. So it's like a little parameter in the description of the link.
But then, on the other hand, I know you're big on LinkedIn, but then if you just post on LinkedIn and that's it, you will capture the audience on LinkedIn. There's not much like authority from Google that's going to be passed if you're just posting on LinkedIn articles and linking to your site. It's just one site. Eventually, it's just LinkedIn. So you need to go out into different places, and Medium being one of them. I mean, Indie Hackers, the Product Hunt, all different places that people hang out. And
for content distribution, it's worth to recycle this that way. Of course. So we have this that is of course worth to use these possibilities. So the next thing, as we did something, we posted some articles. When is the time when it's worth to ask for some external help, and when is this point we can do this inside or alone if we are just starting? What do you think? How we can spot this place?
Okay. So when is a good time to start? Getting help from somebody else?
Yes.
Okay. I think I mentioned this earlier. Essentially, when you got the traction, when you got the marketing person, I think that's when it's time to start. because then external freelancer or external agency or productized services as we offer can give you essentially the leverage in terms of time, because you don't have to spend the time or you don't have to hire somebody to do it for you. And essentially that's the main thing. So everybody that is thinking about it should consider a few options. So one, you go after the hire a freelancer, and then he can do it for you, or she can do it for you. Then agency, the model, and there's loads of productized services as a third option. So when you go and buy a specific service that you want to get delivered, so that's another option that I've seen growing is a growing trend. So let's say you want to have your X number of links built, and then you go to this productized service which offer that, and that that's it. So but at a certain point you need somebody to manage all this, so to manage the freelancer, to manage the agency, so you would need the marketing person inside to manage this all. So it's not become your own responsibility to manage external people.
So it's the borderline when you have first person
when
that
you have
is
somebody
responsible and is full-time responsible for marketing.
When you have somebody, I think that's the best, because when you are a single founder and then you're trying to conquer the world, go global, you've got big ambitions, then you definitely want to be thinking about a lot of things and not just one channel. We specialize in SEO, one channel, but as a founder, you need to think about a lot of other things, like sales, marketing, like how to generate revenue, so all these things. But then, it's just one of the channels.
True. Okay, so thank you. I think we have some some information about this. And the last question: what's your prediction about SEO? What will happen in the next years?
What will happen? Oh, that's a good one. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But as my observations, I can tell you what's happening is much more interaction with the phones and with the voice. So voice search, and then also the Google Lens is becoming more and more sort of present.
I believe in voice search because I bought domain in Polish, voicesearch.pl. So I'm holding this, and I hope that will be big.
Because we as humans become more and more lazy, and therefore I've seen this in the younger generation. They stop even typing. They start like putting their voice into communicating, so they exchange like voice messages. So if they they get used to it, they also search by using a Google Voice then. So a strong prediction is that will be the main thing, which is a challenge, of course, for the brand owners, because Google Voice search will give you the first result. What about everybody else?
True.
You don't
not
exist.
Top 10, you are top 1. Is the goal.
You just don't exist anymore, because they will literally, if you Google something and they will read out read out the results for you, they will be just the first one, and then Google Lens is also phenomenal, because you can just literally point your phone and then search for something, and then it will find the stuff for you. So it's amazing, like how this things works.
But on the products or where?
There's literally Google Lens, it's called, and then you could
Shazam for songs that you can.
Literally you can put like what song is that, and it will tell you. So that these are big, interactions with the phone, essentially, because we're becoming more mobile, and then all sorts of devices really, because we've got the phones, but the smartwatch and all sorts of wearables. So I think that's going forward will be more and more present in our life.
And still only one top 1 search.
Still one top.
The Apple Watch, you wouldn't find top 10.
No, they're not going to be listing.
Interesting. So even more competitive, and winners will win even more.
But then I think you've got like different type of users. You've got all the new savvy people, but then if you're sitting in the office, you're not gonna be searching voice. So it really depends on the behavior and then the use case. If you're like office worker and you're gonna be searching, on your mobile, like for like something that you don't want others to hear.
True.
And you will still type.
True.
will still go, and
so
then
there will be some for some specific shops or something. Okay.
No. It's it's
great.
kind of like just different audience.
Wouldn't die
Just
as
different.
books.
Yes.
So typing also will survive. Okay, great. So where can we find you on internet? How to find your work and company?
So yeah, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I think that's the best place that you can find me. Yes, totally. You can find me on LinkedIn. Or just Google me. My name. You're probably gonna be in the show notes.
Yeah,
and
everything will be below.
Everything will be below. And then I guess just link up the domain, and then you can find me if you need any help with SEO.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.